In this video, I'm going to show you what all the best loop makers and producers are doing to create melodies like this one. If you want to make melodies like this that are more complicated, this is the Kyle Beats version of that. It takes a second. Not only do you have to know how to play a couple chords, but you got to know some other things too. So I'm gonna break it down. Watch every single step of this. It's very important. This melody was in two different parts. I separated it into different projects just to be able to show the steps a little bit easier. So this is project number 1. So let's start with these chords. If you don't know anything about making chords, progressions, anything like that, I have a video that goes over that, but let me break this down really quickly for you. This chord progression might look complex, it might look insane, but it's actually broken up into 3 different parts. The first part here is the bass line. Every good chord progression starts off with 4 notes. We call those the root notes. And basically the way you can make these is just by clicking. This progression should repeat right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. The easiest way to do this is by doing 4 notes. You can come in here and start anywhere. And just click. That sounds pretty good. Now I'm gonna select all these by hitting Control and Select. I'm just gonna show you how to make a chord progression first. And hold Shift and go up. This is G4, we're gonna go up to G5. So it's the same thing, 1 octave up. And now from there, we need to make chords. Typically, the way I like to do it is just by listening. That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good as well. That's 1 chord there, and then usually the same note will work. And then, now there's ways you can learn music theory. I saw Rio Leva do a video where he kind of broke down how he thinks about music theory in FL, because music theory is one thing, but practicing it in FL Studio is another thing. There's a trick he taught that was like, to make a chord, you can go up 3, 1, 2, 3 notes, and there's 4 in between the second note and the third note. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a minor chord. And you can build chords that way as well. So as you can see here, these are the 4 root notes that I chose. The next step I did here was the chord progression that I just taught. So it started with me just clicking in notes, moving some stuff around. You can also select certain notes in the chords and hit Control and pitch them up an entire octave to give more depth. You can add more notes that sound good, and you can pitch things up or down. You can even hold Shift it up or down, different semitones, different keys. And what you can do too is click notes in between the notes. And if you're horrible and you're like, I don't know what notes sound good, just use the notes that you already know work. This C is in there, I know the C is gonna work here. And that's it, we got our chord progression. If you need more details, I have another video on that. I'll link in the description. But for now, let's keep moving on. Let's go to our bass line next. Basically is very easy. All you have to do is follow the bass notes. So here we go. I got a bass from Atmosphere. If you don't have good sounds like Kyle, but I have these trash ass sounds, I'm gonna put a free 1-shot pack in the description for you to download and have some decent sounds. Let's follow the root notes. That's it. And if I want, I can click another one in here. You can just drag the end of this note to the left, tap to put another one in, hold Control, Select, Control up an octave. Boom, sounds amazing. The next thing I'm gonna do is add a counter melody. This key sounds like this. Just wanted to get a little funky with it. We can see the ghost notes. If you're in FL Studio, you can see the ghost note. You kind of know what's gonna work. This particular sound is a little detuned, so it sounds a little funky, so it might not work with all the notes. Which is what I wanted. So we have our counter melody here, just something simple. You'll see where I'm going with this. This is what we're focusing on, pattern 1 here. We'll get to all this stuff in a second, and then we'll go to the new project. Okay, so we got our melody. Sounds sick. The next thing we'll do is we'll drag in a little loop. You'll hear little percussion loops sounds and melody loops now. You'll hear percussion. You're like, wait, what is that? That's not percussion. So I'm gonna take this little percussion loop from the Layers kit that I put out a while ago. The most underrated pack that I have, by the way. There is a free demo, but I highly recommend it. 200 plus freaking sounds in there. It's insane. So let's just drag that in. It automatically snaps to the grid, snaps to the BPM, and just like really low. And there's so many different ones you can choose from, but this is the one. That's pretty good too, honestly. I might even switch to that one. Auto snaps to BPM. It gives it a little depth, bro. You can hold Control-Shift to duplicate that. Let's get into the sauce, shall we? You've seen me export patterns and do stuff like that and resample it and freaking Fruity Slicer. You got, let's take it a little further. I'm gonna now solo just that first melody we made. Let's take melody number 1 here, our chord progression. I am now going to just solo this one, right click on that, solo, and I'm gonna come into your pattern 1 and quick render as audio clip. Boom. This is our melody right here. What I'm gonna do now is pitch this up an octave. You can double click, open up this window here, go to time stretching, pitch it up an entire octave. You basically just drag this knob all the way to the end. You'll see at the top left it says 1200 cents. 100 cents is a semitone, 1200 cents is an octave. From there now we will reverse it. I'm gonna click on this tool, the slice tool, or just hit C, and I'm gonna hold Shift and slice it on the 4, the 3, and the 2. Every bar, I'm gonna make a slice. Hold Shift and just left click. I'm gonna then click the draw tool or just click P. I'm gonna drag each one of these like this. The last one to the beginning, the second one here, third one here, and the first one to the end. Because we reversed it, it's gonna line up these chords with their respective chords that they're in line with. So this chord right here is just this chord reversed and pitched up an octave. Now what we can do is if you're in FL21, this tool at the top left, the show fade editing controls, or just hit Shift F apparently. Basically what that can do is let you easily fade in and out any of these things. And from here, it's gonna be different with every melody. No matter what type of beats if you have like a jazz loop, if your chords are kind of staggered, if they're not completely in line. So this could be a little different for everyone, but you can drag these wherever you want. We just have to line them up just to know where we're at. You know what I mean? You can even hold Control, select it all, Shift up, and just to have a separate like thing to mess with here. I think I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna delete the first one and I'm gonna drag this one, the in on this, so it kind of just. And the other thing I'm gonna do is hold Shift and duplicate this one. And now I'm gonna click left click, make unique on this pattern right here. And what I'm gonna do now is pitch it, actually I'm gonna right click and just reset it or pitch it back to the normal octave. And now I'm gonna double this with a different key and also fade this one in as well. Sounds horrible, so let's do it at the beginning. We'll do the same thing again with this one. But another thing that's important is adding effects. When you're doing processes like this, adding effects to the melodies, slight little effects and wobbles, and having good plugins is important, but I'm gonna try to not do it too much. I'm gonna add some drip, add a little EQ or something. But I know people are adding wild effects that cost so much money, so I'm gonna try to do as minimal effect as possible. And yeah, you can kind of mess around just chopping stuff up here. Okay, so now we got something cool. Let's bring back in our first 2 melodies. Now we got the bass and the counter melody and our layers right here. Already sounding a little bit more complex. Another thing I'm gonna do in here is just kind of drag in one of these hi-hats from my boy Sicky. Shout out to Sicky. This is a little weird hi-hat. I'm just gonna reverse it, dude. So even more texture. Texture is an important thing. You could put RC20 on that, you can do all that stuff. I'm not gonna do that for the sake of people with stock plugins or who are just downloading this free one-shot pack, because I like to just give everything that anyone can use. So it sounds fire. So now we can just export that, and now we got our kind of like starter loop is what you would call that, I guess. So now you can do all this in the same project, but I made a new one for the sake of this tutorial. So I'm gonna go to the new one, okay? This is where it gets fun. And I know what you're thinking. We're about halfway there now. If you've ever wondered why there's so many people who only make loops and that's what they do, is because they're making these kind of loops. And these kind of loops take fucking time, my friends. All right, so we got our loop right here. Now what we're gonna do is bring it in here. I'm gonna reverse it again. There's aspects of this already reversed, right? So because there's aspects of this reversed, when you reverse it again, it's not gonna sound as reversed, if that makes sense. It kind of just sounds good. Our original melody is at 140. I'm gonna pitch it up to 162. Before I do, I'm gonna double click on this and change the mode to stretching. So now when we pitch it up, we don't have to re-stretch our sample and all that stuff. So everything is still accurate. It's not being dragged all over the place. I'm also gonna pitch this down 1 semitone, aka 100 cents, boom. I'm gonna add a little EQ that looks like this, and a little bit of the drop pre-sound and drip. And then the step I took earlier is what we're gonna do again. So I'm gonna hold shift, drag this down, make this unique. So this is its own unique loop now that we're listening to here. I'm gonna then re-reverse it, if that makes sense. I'm gonna click the slice tool. I'm gonna press shift, click the 3, the 5, and the 7. Just 4 chords, and I'm gonna do the process of this again. So we match our re-reversed chords back up to the original. And now it's like we got something flowing here, dude. We got some interesting sounding stuff. So I'm just gonna get creative with this again. I'm gonna do what I did before and grab another little layers loop. I'm actually gonna pitch it up. I'm gonna pitch it up 500 cents. It's gonna automatically snap to this. Just some more depth. I pitched it up to match kind of the tune with this one because it kind of has a little bit of a ding, little dinkers in there. And now from there, I'm going to get a bass, an atmosphere, and absolutely go in. We're getting somewhere now, we're like, oh, we're getting pieces that, okay, this is starting to sound good. This is where the boys are gonna have to use their ears. But let's just practice playing something that sounds good. Hear the sound very good because it's a bass. You can always control and pitch it up like 2 octaves. Boom, that sounds amazing. Control down. And the last thing that you heard me make in the beginning was this amazing sounding vocal. I'm just gonna drag it in. We dissect this vocal now. I'm gonna show you how you can make this vocal as well with literally 0 skill. I recorded this right here on my microphone, and I'm gonna show you how you can do it too. You don't have to have singing skills to be an insane vocal sample loop making person. So here's the original. All I wanna know is so bad. So basically what I did is I found out what the key was. If you don't know how to find the key, export it and upload it to a key finder thing on Google. If you don't know how to find the key, you can also click and hear what notes sound good. So let's just do a new one. This is where you'll once again have to get creative while making music. Imagine that. Let's just show an example of what I'm talking about. And record with insane auto-tune on. It's not just auto-tune though. I'm just trying to get creative. It might take you a couple tries, but yeah, on a fatal time. So bad, dude. Yeah, and I get time for it. You don't call for me anymore. Doesn't have to be words either, dude. It's funny because it's so bad, but it's fine, dude. So what you do now is, we got our vocal, sounds absolutely garbage. Doesn't sound that bad. Okay, so now we're gonna do this. Double click on the vocal that we recorded. We're gonna right click and go to pitch corrector. Boom. The center knob, the variation knob, bring the variation all the way down and the center knob all the way up. This is gonna center all your notes and make it sound like you're a literal robot. What you're gonna do is just basically fix these notes so that they're absolutely perfect. Almost use it as an instrument. Or then I'm gonna click this drag selection tool here when we're done and drag it in here. So I'm gonna put a little free limiter on here. First things first, go to compression. Take the threshold down to about halfway, turn the ratio up. Let's do this too, let's do a little EQ. The goal is to make this sound like some sort of sample thing that's not your voice. Let's throw a little drip on there too. Maybe use Apex. I'm gonna pitch the main melody up 3 semitones, and I'm gonna pitch this up 3 semitones as well. And I'm gonna just make little cuts here where things don't sound good, because I probably should re-record it. And hopefully you'll end up with something that's like this. Easier than you think. It takes a lot of steps. It for sure takes some practice. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Check out Layers if you want to try something like this. And yeah, that's it. See you later. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Goodbye.